You think being high value is about being liked. Wrong. It's about being respected, admired, remembered. And here's the truth they won't tell you: a high value woman is defined as much by what she refuses to follow as by what she chooses to live by. These are the rules she breaks, the chains she shatters, and the reason why she becomes unforgettable. You think the world respects the quiet, the agreeable, the one who bites her tongue and nods along. Think again. A high-value woman knows that silence in the wrong places is not elegance, it's erasure. She doesn't keep her mouth shut to make others feel comfortable. She doesn't sacrifice truth on the altar of politeness. Her voice is her power and she wields it with intention. She doesn't speak to fill space, she speaks to claim it. Because the moment she's told to stay silent is the exact moment she knows she's onto something powerful. And power, it doesn't whisper. She grew up in a world that taught her to be nice, to be agreeable, to swallow her words before they offend. But she unlearned that. Because she realized that every time she silenced herself to keep the peace, she declared someone else's comfort more valuable than her truth. That's not peace, that's submission in disguise. And she refuses to submit to narratives that keep her small. She's not reckless with her words, no, but she's real. Her truth is sharp, polished, and unwavering. And once it leaves her lips, it commands attention. People often mistake silence for grace. They think restraint is noble. But what they forget is that dignity isn't found in withholding your voice, it's found in honoring it. She doesn't let anyone guilt her into silence. Not partners, not bosses, not friends. She's not afraid of being labeled too opinionated, too direct, or too intense. She knows that those labels are often just code for uncontrollable. And that's exactly what she is: uncontrollable by anything that tries to dim her truth. When injustice happens in front of her, she doesn't turn her head and pretend she didn't see. She doesn't stay quiet just to keep the peace. She confronts it clearly, directly, and without apology. Because silence in the face of wrong is complicity, and she refuses to be complicit. She speaks up even when her voice shakes, even when her hands tremble. Because she understands this. If she doesn't advocate for herself, if she doesn't speak for those who can't, then her voice becomes a prison instead of a weapon. And she refuses to live imprisoned. She also understands that silence isn't just about what you don't say, it's about what you allow. When someone disrespects her, she doesn't stay quiet and hope they realize it. She addresses it. Immediately, calmly, powerfully. Because silence allows disrespect to breed. And she doesn't give disrespect a second to breathe. She's not looking for a fight, but she won't run from one either. Her silence is not a tool of suppression, it's a choice. And when she chooses to speak, she speaks with the weight of a woman who knows her worth. This kind of boldness doesn't come overnight. She's had to fight for it. She's had to unlearn generations of conditioning, of being told that being too loud makes her less feminine, less desirable. But now she sees the truth. Her voice is her femininity, her power, her purpose. She doesn't speak to dominate. She speaks to declare, to create space, to break barriers. Because she knows that silence may keep her safe, but it will never set her free. And freedom is non-negotiable. She doesn't chase approval. Not from friends, not from partners, not from society. Because the second you start living for claps, likes, and nods, you forget who you are. A high-value woman has walked through enough fire to know that external validation is fragile. It flips with opinions and the moods of others. She's not out here performing. She's not adjusting her personality to fit the vibe of the room. She is the room. Her presence doesn't beg to be accepted, it dares to be felt. And if someone can't handle her truth, they're not her audience. From a young age, the world conditions women to seek approval. Be likable. Be agreeable. Be soft-spoken. And for a while, maybe she followed that script. Maybe she tried to please everyone, wore the mask, shrank herself into someone else's expectations. But then she woke up. She realized that people-pleasing is just self-betrayal wrapped in politeness. And she stopped betraying herself. She stopped editing her soul to match someone else's comfort level. Approval is cheap. Her authenticity is priceless. And she's not trading diamonds for dust. She doesn't ask, do they like me? She asks, do I respect who I'm being right now? That's the question that guides her. That's her internal compass. She's not molding herself to fit someone else's mold, she's breaking it. Because fitting in is a trap. The more you bend, the more you lose your shape. And she's not interested in losing herself. She's not here to be liked, she's here to be honest. Honest in her energy. Honest in her standards. Honest in her presence. She's not afraid to disappoint others if it means staying loyal to herself. Even in relationships, she doesn't perform for approval. She doesn't play roles, doesn't pretend to be less intelligent, less ambitious, or less confident just to be digestible. She knows that anyone who requires her to dim her light in order to feel secure is not someone worth building with. Love to her isn't about earning validation, it's about being fully seen, fully known, and still fully loved. If she has to earn basic respect, that's not love, it's labor. And she doesn't labor for love. She embodies it. She doesn't let praise define her, and she doesn't let criticism destroy her. Because she's grounded in something deeper, self-recognition. She knows her strengths. She owns her flaws. She's done the inner work. And that work has taught her that applause is addictive, but it's also dangerous. You get high on it, and suddenly you're not doing things because they're right, you're doing them because they're popular. She's not trying to go viral. She's trying to go deep. Deep into her purpose, deep into her calling, deep into the parts of her that don't need an audience to matter. This kind of self-certainty doesn't come from ego, it comes from evolution. She's shed layers of false identity. She stood alone. She's lost people who couldn't handle her growth. And she's still here, still rising, still rooted. Approval is fleeting, but alignment is forever. And she knows that when she's aligned with her truth, the right people won't just accept her, they'll respect her. Not because she begged for it, but because she embodied ITT. She doesn't play small to make others feel big. She doesn't shrink herself to fit in rooms that were never built for her light. A high-value woman understands that presence isn't just about how loud you are, it's about how undeniable you are. And she is undeniable. She doesn't apologize for her strength, her vision, her success. She knows that the world has tried for centuries to convince women to take up less space, to be quiet, humble, unthreatening. But she's not buying into that lie. She's not in the business of making others comfortable at the expense of her truth. There was a time when she did dim her light. When she made herself smaller, quieter, less visible to keep the peace or avoid judgment. But that version of her is gone. She buried her in the ashes of self-denial and rose with a fierceness that cannot be ignored. Playing small felt safe, but it also felt suffocating. She realized that her light was not a threat, it was a mirror. And people who felt threatened by it were just confronting the parts of themselves they hadn't dared to develop. That wasn't her problem. That was their reflection. And she stopped internalizing their discomfort. She's not intimidated by her own greatness. She doesn't question whether she's too much, too ambitious, too bold, too direct. She refuses to live in a box that someone else built. Boxes are for storage, not for women like her. She's not concerned with being labeled as extra. She embraces it, because being extraordinary requires stepping beyond what's considered normal. She's not just aiming for success, she's aiming for impact. She wants her existence to echo. And you don't get echoes by whispering. The world often tells powerful women to tone it down. It rewards the soft-spoken and punishes the assertive. But she doesn't play by those rules. She knows that playing small doesn't protect her, it limits her. She's done asking for permission to be powerful. She takes up space with intention. She walks into rooms like she belongs there, not because she's arrogant, but because she's prepared. She's worked. She's earned it. And she's not going to downplay her excellence to appease those who haven't done the same. She understands that standing tall doesn't mean towering over others. It means standing fully in her essence without guilt. It's not about ego, it's about energy. Her energy introduces her before she even speaks. And that energy says, I know who I am. I know what I bring. I don't need to prove it, I live it. She's not trying to compete, she's trying to contribute. But she won't reduce herself to be accepted. Acceptance that requires delusion is not acceptance, it's control. And she cannot be controlled. Playing small is a habit she broke with intention. Because she realized something powerful, her life is a message, a signal. A call to every woman watching her that it's okay to rise, to speak, to shine unapologetically. Every time she stands tall, she gives silent permission to others to do the same. That's the legacy she's creating. Not just success for herself, but expansion for others. And that expansion starts the moment she decided that she would rather be too much than never enough. She doesn't settle. Not in love, not in life, not in the story she tells herself about what she deserves. A high-value woman understands that settling is not an act of compromise, it's an act of self-abandonment. And she refuses to abandon herself. She's worked too hard, healed too deeply, and risen too far to accept halfway. Halfway love, halfway effort, halfway dreams. She wants it all not because she's entitled, but because she's earned it. Settling feels safe to some, but to her, it feels suffocating. She would rather be alone than anchored to something that dims her brilliance. She doesn't fall for potential anymore. Potential used to impress her, the idea of what someone could be. But now, she's interested in the present. Who are you right now? What are you doing with your life, your integrity, your actions? She's not building men, fixing jobs, or waiting for life to get better someday. She lives in the now. And she wants excellence that shows up, not promises that float in the air. She knows that clinging to potential is often just fear in disguise that says, this is the best I'll get. But she silenced that fear with truth. She knows what she brings. And she knows what she's worth. In relationships, she doesn't tolerate being treated like a convenience. She's not interested in being chosen out of comfort or routine. She wants to be chosen with intention, with clarity, with conviction. If someone sees her light but can't match it, they are not her person. She doesn't beg, she doesn't chase, and she sure as hell doesn't stay in places where her soul is starving. If she's not respected, if her boundaries are crossed, if her value isn't seen, she leaves. No drama, no noise. Just a quiet, powerful exit. Because nothing speaks louder than a woman who walks away with her dignity intact. And she refuses to settle for anything less than depth, loyalty, and growth. She's not lonely, she's aligned. She doesn't need a crowd around her to feel whole. Her solitude is not emptiness, it's elevation. And she only shares that space with people who see her fully and love her without agenda. Settling to her is not an option, it's a red flag. She's too awake now, too aware of what it costs to accept less than what you deserve. And she's no longer willing to pay that price. She used to fear being alone. Now, she fears losing herself for the illusion of connection. She knows the difference between patience and stagnation, between compromise and surrender, between hope and denial. And every time she's tempted to settle, she reminds herself, you are not hard to love, hard to keep, or hard to satisfy. You are just unwilling to lower your standards. And that is your power. She doesn't tolerate disrespect, not even once. A high-value woman knows that the first time someone crosses a line and she stays silent, she's teaching them how to treat her. And she refuses to be a silent participant in her own mistreatment. Disrespect doesn't have to be loud to be dangerous. It can hide in small things, dismissive tone, passive-aggressive comments, being talked over, belittled, or taken for granted. She notices it all because she's aware. And her awareness is her armor. She doesn't overlook the red flags just because the person waving them makes her feel wanted. She's not dramatic, she's decisive. When someone disrespects her, she doesn't react with chaos, she responds with clarity. She sets boundaries with no fear and no guilt. Not because she wants to control others, but because she refuses to let others control her reality. She's not afraid to say, this doesn't work for me. She doesn't sugarcoat her truth to keep the peace. And she doesn't shrink into silence to avoid conflict. Her boundaries are not walls, they are doors. And only those who know how to respect are invited in. There's a lie women are taught that understanding and tolerance are signs of maturity. But she knows better now. She knows that maturity isn't about enduring mistreatment with grace, it's about knowing when to walk away. She doesn't confuse emotional intelligence with emotional labor. It's not her job to heal someone who keeps hurting her. It's not her job to explain her worth to someone committed to misunderstanding it. If someone needs her to shrink in order to feel strong, that's not a relationship, it's a transaction. And she is not a negotiable commodity. Her standards are not too high, they are finally aligned. For too long she was told she was too sensitive, too much, or too picky. But now she understands those comments weren't critiques of her, they were confessions of others' limitations. She is not too anything. She is exactly enough for the life she was meant to lead. She doesn't keep people around who drain her. She doesn't apologize for enforcing her standards. She knows that respect isn't just shown in grand gestures, it's shown in consistency. In the way someone speaks to her, listens to her, supports her, and shows up for her. When she walks into a room, she pays attention not just to what people say, but to how they make her feel. Her intuition is sharp. If something feels off, she doesn't ignore it to keep things light. She trusts that feeling. Disrespect doesn't always wear a name tag, it's subtle, quiet, and sometimes. She doesn't compete with other women, she connects with them. A high-value woman understands that another woman's success is not her failure. It's fuel. It's proof. It's possibility. The world has tried to convince women that they are rivals by default, that there's only one seat at the table, and that comparison is the only lens through which to see each other. But she rejects that narrative completely. Because she knows that the real power is not in tearing each other down, it's in lifting each other up. She doesn't see a beautiful, successful woman and feel threatened. She feels inspired. Because she's not rooted in scarcity, she's rooted in abundance. She doesn't look at another woman's confidence and think, who does she think she is? She looks and thinks that's what it looks like when you own your power. She celebrates it. Because she's done the inner work to build her own. She's not in silent competition at brunch. Not comparing Instagram followers. Not secretly hoping someone else fails so she can shine. That energy is beneath her. She's focused on her purpose, on her elevation. And she understands that the only woman she's ever truly in competition with is the woman she used to be. She knows that jealousy is not about the other person, it's a signal from within. So when that emotion rises, she doesn't shame herself. She gets curious. What is this showing me about what I desire? What part of me is hungry for growth? That's the difference. She doesn't project her insecurity onto others. She uses it as a compass, a chance to go deeper, to expand, not to attack. Because high-value women don't gossip in corners, they rise in circles. They network. They collaborate. They uplift. Because they know the live truth, empowered women empower women. In friendship, she chooses depth over drama, real over performance. She doesn't need a group of followers, she wants a tribe of equals. Women who challenge her, celebrate her, and hold her accountable. Women who clap loudly when she wins and stay close when she's breaking. She's not interested in friendships built on competition, codependency, or convenience. She craves something sacred. And because she gives that kind of loyalty, she receives it in return. She believes that sisterhood is not just a buzzword, it's a revolution. One that begins when women see each other as allies, not adversaries. She's not afraid to be the only woman in the room. And she's not afraid to be one of many. She can lead, she can follow, and she can walk away when the energy isn't right. Because she knows who she is in a room full of women. She doesn't get lost. She aligns. She adds value. She brings presence. And if there's someone who's doing it better, she doesn't compete, she learns. She's always learning, always growing. Because the goal isn't to be the best in the room, it's to become the best version of herself no matter who's watching. At her core, she believes in legacy. And legacy isn't built by outshining others, it's built by igniting them. She knows her power is multiplied, not diminished when shared. So she mentors. She supports. She passes the mic. And she never lets ego block the beauty of connection. She is magnetic not because she demands attention, but because she radiates authenticity. And that kind of woman, she doesn't compete. She creates space, opportunity, impact, and most of all, unity. Because when one woman rises, she knows it's not the end of the race. It's the beginning of something bigger than all of us. And that is what separates her. Not just her strength, not just her beauty, but her clarity. She knows who she is, what she stands for, and what she will never settle for. Every rule she refuses to follow is a declaration of self-worth. Every boundary she sets is a revolution. She is not here to conform, she is here to transform, to raise the standard, to shift the culture, to remind every woman watching that you don't have to play by the world's rules to win. You just have to remember who you are and never let anyone make you forget.